Hello everyone, welcome to this episode of Maritime Software Hub, the People Podcast. Today I'm really excited to be joined by the leading team of Amphitrite. We're going to talk through the future of ocean data and how maritime decisions can be influenced with AI. So today, thank you very much for joining me. I've got Alex Stegner, the CEO, and I've got Evangelos Moscos, the co-founder and the chief technology officer. So guys, thank you for coming in on board the show. Really, really excited to have you here. If you don't mind starting off, if you could please tell a little bit about kind of each of your background before starting the business.
Yeah, thank you, Callum, for the invitation. First, it's really a pleasure to be on this podcast and to share our experience and also our expertise. So just to say that I'm the old guy of the company, I would say. I'm a former researcher. I've been doing oceanographic research for more than 20 years at the French National Center for Research, the CNRS, and I'm also a professor at the École Polytechnique, which is one of the leading engineering schools in France. And we started this adventure a bit more than 2 years ago now with Evangelos and also many other colleagues.
Very good.
So,
Excellent.
yeah, I actually met Alex one of my first days in France. I came from Greece, like a lot of people to do my studies, and that ended up in a PhD, which ended up in a startup. I would say quite randomly. This was not, if you like, my intention to go into shipping, but I always had a passion for that sector, and I think what was very intriguing to start this adventure with Amphitrite is to bring technologies that are not necessarily very well known in this sector to people doing actual operations at sea. So technologies like AI, knowledge like oceanography, how satellite works, and it's really a passion every day to bring all that innovation to the maritime operators.
Brilliant. Well, very interesting. And it's good to hear both of your backgrounds. And I guess you kind of alluded to it a little bit there, but what inspired you both to kind of think, right, let's take this project and let's turn it into a business and run with it?
Well, as I said before, I think the first thing is passion, right? So some images of so back from Greece about how shipping works, this complicated sector, and going into action. So we've been working on this project for at least 3 years now. I think an important inspiration for me has been talking to the seafarers. So actually, working with the people that are on ships, guiding them for their routes. This has been a constant feedback of inspiration. And I think, of course, what's on the background, Alex would like to speak about it, is the innovation, right? Doing new things that haven't been tried before in terms of how we measure the ocean.
On my side, I said I'm an academic researcher, and at some point, been many years that we are talking about climate change. We are talking about the impact of climate change, the impact on the ocean. And with my colleagues, we always said, okay, what about people? Why they don't change? Why they don't react? And I said, well, but at some point, we need also us to go in action. Okay. We are talking about climate change, but okay, let's go next step. What are the action and what are research, all the work that we've done, the knowledge that we have for all these many years, how we can transfer this to go to action. And maritime decarbonization is really a challenge. And I was really inspired by this issue. There's many questions. It's not there is no one single solution. It's a combination of multiple solutions. And I really believe that we can provide something. Okay, it's not the whole solution for net zero vessels, but it's a part of it. Okay, and to provide one part of this new technology that can help to save 5, 6, maybe 10% of fossil fuel of CO2 emissions, that will be already a great achievement. And I think this is something that really stimulates us and also stimulate a lot of young who join us recently.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, day to day, we're obviously recruiters. So when we're speaking to potential candidates for roles, they really like the idea of being part of something which is good for the environment and helping shape the future of maritime and things. So that's really, really poignant. And I mean, I guess so. Yes, we learned a little bit about yourself. Thank you very much. And can you share, either of you share an overview of the Amphitrite platform itself?
Yeah. So first of all, it's all about the data, right? I mean, routing or weather routing, or how would you like to call it? It's been there since tens of years with computers, thousands of years with ships. So what we bring to the table, what's new, it's that we manage to have today much more reliable data about the ocean. And in particular, we have been focusing on modeling correctly the ocean currents for our first steps. So we do that via satellites. Satellites give us, you can see in the background, very, very, if you like, precise observations of the ocean. So what you see here is an image of the temperature of the Mediterranean Sea. So you have cold waters fusing into warmer waters, and that's a bit like the milk that you put in a cup of coffee, right? So when you stir it around, you see the filament circulating, and that's what we manage to extract through advanced artificial intelligence models. So by doing that in real time, you capture the satellite signal, you pass it through AI, you deduce what's the ocean circulation. We can have very, very precise ocean data in real time that can be then used to guide the ships. Right? So that's the basis of what we're building. I would like to extend it to many other parameters such as the waves, the winds, and so on.
Maybe I had some more precision on that, is that it's been many years that you have a routing solution that propose, let's say, weather routing. Weather routing is well known, but mainly is avoiding the main storms, big meteorological events. And we are talking about routing on thousands of kilometers for a voyage crossing the Atlantic or the Pacific, more than 10 days, several weeks. And you need to have good forecasts for the weather. But now we are able to provide also reliable information at a finer scale, and to position the ships on the right side of the current. And it's a very different scales. We are talking about scales for storms. It's thousands of kilometers. Here, we are talking about scales of maybe a few tens of kilometers, 100 of kilometers. It's much smaller scale, and just some slight change on the route. We are not talking about changing hundred or few thousand nautical miles, just few tens or few tens of nautical miles north or south, and you can really benefit from fine scale currents. And this is something that is now possible thanks to this new technology, and it's a different scale of routing. So it also works for what we call short sea shipping, where 99% of the ships so far, as we see, really go straight, okay, the direct route, the shortest route. And there's still a lot of optimization that can be done. Apart from the weather routing, you can add this fine scale optimization on this large scale, avoiding the storms, of course, but also many, many voyages. We can provide this fine scale information from port to port for, let's say, 2, 3, 4 days voyages.
Okay, interesting. And just to clarify for our listeners, the commercial model here, is it like an annual subscription based? So it's very much a software platform, or do you provide any sensors and that type of thing?
So we don't need sensors on board. We are mainly processing satellites data.
Yeah.
So it's really a web platform. So today it's in a free trial, so users can test it. It's especially operational in the Mediterranean Sea, but we are developing this platform in many areas in the world. And of course, it's a subscription platform depending on the usage that you will have. Maybe you will, let's say somebody who make 2 transit or 3 transit a year in the Med Sea, who will buy only few numbers of transit, okay, given a duration. But if you have regular lines in a specific area, then it's an annual subscription. Yeah.
Yeah,
So you
okay.
can go and test it out on Ocean Bulletin. That's how we call it, like a weather bulletin, but it's an ocean bulletin. So ocean-bulletin.com. You can go and make an account and test it out. I just like to add that, today that there's a lot of software in the industry doing voyage optimization, and of course there are companies or seafarers who currently are used to a software that does many jobs, and we don't just want to add another one on the side. We want to make the industry benefit as much as possible from the data we're producing. So we've created APIs that make it possible to plug in the data in whatever solution is available to the captain.
That makes sense, and that leads me nicely on to the next question. Is, I guess, how do you source your data, oceanographic data, and how is it then processed?
So basically, we have different sources of data. We are mainly using satellite observation. So Evangelos mentioned sea surface temperature. So we are merging, and the core of the technology is a fusion to merge different sources of observation that could be very different physical sensors. It can be observation of sea surface temperature, can be observation of chlorophyll imagery. It can be also observation of the sea surface height, which is a measure of the pressure at the surface of the ocean. And you have a lot of satellite or constellation of satellites that were launched this last decades, mainly dedicated to Earth observation. And we are fusing these different type of observation to reconstruct in the best way surface currents. And we are using AI technology to do that. We're using deep learning. And in this learning stage, we also use some in situ measurements, to have specific calibration in specific areas. And these in situ measurements here again comes from oceanographic campaigns, where you may have drifters that are released in the ocean. You have only a few of them, but these are useful to do this precise calibration. And you can also have oceanographic campaigns where you have ships that makes a lot of transect that make direct measurements. And I think these are the most accurate measurements that we can get from ocean currents.
Okay.
These made by what we call the acoustic Doppler current profilers that are fixed on the ship. But of course, you have only a few of these campaigns. You have very, very rare information, but these are really needed to, I would say, recalibrate these global pictures that you can get from satellites. So it's a mix between global satellites and this campaign. And just to say that all the information are open source data. We are using open source data. We have a lot of course, we have, as oceanographer, we have access to this data and we know how to process them and to use them. But I mean, if you get the knowledge, you can also, on your side, download in different servers, either from the Copernicus servers or from the NOAA, this information. These basically are Earth observation satellites sent by NASA and ESA, European Space Agency.
And where does the AI come in, and what part? It obviously has the data. What then happens for the artificial intelligence to kick in and kind of spit out information? How does that play its part?
Okay, the idea is you want to infer the information of the surface current, or let's say the wave, but you don't have direct measurements of the surface current or the waves. You have the signature of the surface current. You have the patterns on the sea surface temperature. You may have the patterns on the chlorophyll. You may have something which is related to the current, which is the pressure which generates these currents, which maybe it's a different spatial and temporal scales, you again. And you try to infer an information from one variable from other ones. And AI is very good for that, to be able to do this inference once you get the training, when you make the links between these different types of observation. So everything is in the training stage. You need to have numerical models to make the links between what you can get from, let's say, take the example of your coffee cup. Okay, you just tow your coffee with a little bit of milk and you have a pattern here. You want to retrieve what was the motion of your spoon.
Okay.
Which motion of the spoon create this pattern? AI is able to do that. Let's say that you give different motion of spoon, you give different patterns. He learns the link. Then you give only the patterns, he's able to get the motion of the spoon. Exactly the same thing. You give the patterns, you give the information, and then he retrieves the currents.
And then on top of that, we can do more magic. That now place yourself on top of the Atlantic. There are some tens of satellites crossing the region every day, right, with different instruments. So we recover all that data, and on top of that, we'll go recover, what's been seen the past week. And if you think about it, it creates something like a video, right, of how the ocean moves. And actually, deep learning models are today very powerful in order to do a next step, what we call video prediction. So what will come next if you have someone playing basketball and he's up in the air, what he's going to do next? Is he going to score? And you can do the same thing with how are the ocean currents going to move. And because the ocean tends to move a bit slower than the atmosphere, or quite slower than the atmosphere, we are able to predict the movement of those structures. So do actually a forecast that's, as we say in the sector, is purely data driven. And this has been working quite well. Actually, the ocean is very difficult to model with, simple physical equations. So capturing the information that is in the data and learning how it's going to move in the near future has been a very powerful paradigm that we set into action.
Yeah, and how, in what ways do you think that data and those insights can benefit the maritime industry and I guess the crew and sort of seafarers in general?
Okay, so first of all, we're not going to teach the seafarers weather. They know it very well. And what's interesting is that we asked them what poses a problem. Okay, so we've done some surveys and we try to be the closest possible to them. And what comes out frequently is that the wind and wave information they have, depending on the region, but tends to be quite accurate. And the ocean currents, what's being measured by the ship, they have the speed log. Most ships, they have a way to measure the ocean currents. Usually or frequently doesn't agree with some information they have from a provider. Okay, and so that pushed us to go and explore this variable and say, okay, can we model it better than what exists? And then we want to provide to them the information where they need it. So if you like, we're trying to have a relationship which we are guided by them, by the needs of the seafarers. And then on top of that, I'd say if we have some oceanographic knowledge in the company, if we can diffuse this knowledge about, for example, what's the difference between a tidal current and an ocean current, or how do waves interact with currents and what have you, if we can diffuse this knowledge to the seafarers, I think it's really an end goal for us for this for the work we do in this sector.
Interesting. Okay, fantastic. And I guess in what ways do you see the data and oceanographic kind of data going forward? Do you think is it going to change, evolve with technology, of course? Any insights you're particularly sort of seeing at the moment?
Yeah, there's a big boom in the satellite industry, in the satellite data as well. I think already in the last 20 years, there was a big change using satellites in oceanography. It provides a huge transformation. We have much better observation of the ocean. It's very difficult to make observation in the ocean. Okay, you need to have a ship that go make in situ measurements. It's much more easier to have weather information on land, and satellites is really crucial for the ocean. There is recently a new generation of altimeter satellites, that the one that measures the sea surface height. There's a new generation of satellite which is called SWOT that was launched 2 years ago, and it will be fully operational beginning 2025. And it's really amazing at a fine scale structure you can get information. And besides, on the top of that, you have more new instruments that will be deployed in the next years, in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years. There is new technologies that will appear there. So I'm really convinced that satellites is really the new thing. I mean, sometimes in the middle of the ocean, you are closer to a satellite than to the land, to the next harbor. So
Wow.
Satellites really what is the closest to you. And the thing that we are doing is not taking only one instrument, but taking the information of several of them, measuring roughly the same situation, but with different cameras or different glasses, okay? You see different signal of the same phenomena. And fusing this different information provide really a great improvement in the quality and the precision of what you are doing. First of all, satellites, I'm really convinced that satellites will be more and more development and more use of satellites in the industry, satellites data. And on the top of that, we are talking about drones. You see that there's more and more drones for military application, but also for civil applications. And it can really improve and develop or increase the number of observation, because drones are cheap, quite cheap. Now they are able to sail far away for many weeks, many months in total autonomy. And this will be, I think, a revolution for oceanographic campaign. It starts now. You have a lot of more and more drones, but I think it will be more and more generalized to have more campaigns with small autonomous ships traveling, crossing the ocean, doing a lot of transect in total autonomy. And we will have more and more in situ data as well to complete the satellite observation. So the new revolution, more satellite data and more in situ with autonomous drones in the ocean.
Fantastic. That ties, really closely to, I guess, what we're seeing in the, I guess, the LEO, the low Earth orbit kind of explosion the last few years. Does that relate? Is that linked then to sort of companies like OneWeb and these other businesses, or is that more to do with the actual connectivity and vessel positionings, that type of thing?
I think that LEO communication is really linked to connectivity, to communication, to how we can transfer the information on board. This is also very important because today, of course, more and more ships have direct internet access on board with relatively good bandwidth or moderate bandwidth, but this will be a big boom. I mean, LEO, Starlink, OneWeb, all this new connectivity, this constellation of satellite will really improve the quality of the transmission in two ways. Both, we will be able to send more accurate information on board. We can directly send the maps at a fine scale on board, but we can also gather back the data. You will have more sensors, more IoT on board, and we can also will be able to have in real time taking into account the sensors. But this needs this culture of sharing data. In research, researchers share the data. Data are open, we said. And once you do the campaign, you have your first paper, you publish the paper, and then everything is open. And this is, by the way, forced by the institution who pay for the research. You need to provide the data as an open source. In the maritime industry, I think people are still conservative. They said, this is my data. I want to keep my data. I will benefit from it. At some point, yes, but at some point, no, because sharing this data with other ones means that you will also get the data from the others. You will benefit much more by fusing all this data together than just keeping your own data on yourself. So there's this culture of sharing, and basically we are working with companies, and some companies are quite open to share their data, and we are use this data to improve the model as well. But I think there's this culture of really open the data and share the data, it will really improve also the quality of all the companies and all the seafarers.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, I think if we're looking at also you guys obviously came from slightly outside of the commercial shipping world, let's say. So, great if we could, don't mind moving on and talk a little bit about, I guess, the sort of the talent and people side of shipping technology. So, I mean, when you've kind of been looking to hire and expand your team over the last year or so, have you had any challenges or have you found it tricky to find people that kind of got that AI experience as well as maritime? Any kind of thoughts in that sort of area?
So I believe we're quite well positioned for the AI part of it. So right now we are at the École Polytechnique, which is a very renowned French engineering institution. So these people are all around us, but it's true that what's sexy nowadays is to apart from the FANGs, etc., is to go and work for LLMs today. So that's large language models, the equivalence of ChatGPT, and basically everyone who has a good understanding of AI today thinks at least of going and working for this application. So we need to make this sector sexy. What has been really motivating our team and having great talent to join us is the environmental side of it, is the fact that we can have a tangible impact on the environment. By making data work, we can really reduce the CO2 emissions. So something happening in the material world. So that's I think a great motivator. But if we think about AI talent working in the shipping industry generally, because it's not only about startups, I believe AI talent is needed also on the other side, if you like, of the industry, which is the shipping companies. I think it also boils down to the DNA that Alex was talking about before, the culture. So
Yeah.
it's it's the traditional family-owned companies that build the sector, and that's its strength, frankly, also. But the moment this starts to change, the moment we start to see academic collaborations, chairs in universities, and we start to see this more and more, because we're speaking about a quite influential sector in the economy. I think this is the moment where we also see some talent inflow coming from sectors like AI, which don't traditionally touch shipping. And also, I think people need to leave from shipping companies and go also to work in other technological sectors to create more these bridges. We've been having ex mariners working as front end developers in our company. So this mix is great, because you can understand the needs of the people you serve when you develop something.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And yeah, I think having that prior industry expertise, even if it's not in an actual hands-on technology or an IT focused role, at least the influence, whether it's on the product team or the hiring team, is very important. Yeah, no, I guess when we talk to candidates about the maritime space, if they're not from it, the thing that really appeals to them is the opportunity to not necessarily catch up with other sectors, but when you compare it to perhaps like the freight technology space, supply chain, automotive, there's lots of kind of opportunities for people to come in and see that these businesses are growing. They're at their early phase, so yeah, that tends to get people interested as well. And as you said about the economic factors and the environmental factors is usually a pretty big pull. So yeah. Good, awesome, guys. All right, well, I really appreciate both your time, and anything else you'd like to share about the business?
We are at the stage we are starting to promote this new technology. We are looking for seafarers who test it. So we are, as Evangelos mentioned, we really love to discuss with captains, seafarers who bring us a lot of expertise also, how they work, how they operate on a daily basis. And there's many functionalities, there is many usage that we discover with them, and sometimes just, oh, you need that. That's simple. We can just put this. It's a very simple information. We can bring it to you. You just need to tell us what you need. And our goal is really to develop this platform together. I mean, for the seafarers, with the seafarers.
Yeah, brilliant. No, good. No, I really appreciate you guys coming on, and it's really exciting to hear about your journey so far. Before I let you go, I always like to ask people a little bit about themselves, just so we know who we're listening to and things. So, can you each share a little bit about what you like to do in your personal time outside of work?
Is there anything outside of work? So yeah. No, frankly, I love being close to the sea, and I've been missing a bit that in Paris. So I try as much as possible to reach the sea. But apart from that, I'd say I like learning, and I leave it to that. So naturally curious, so many things that come in front of me. I like to learn new things, and I think that's what led us to building a startup.
Yeah, and to say that you mentioned when we have some free time, and sometimes we have, I just bought a new sailing boat. I love to sail, and in Brittany, and it's really a sports sailing boat, really fun, having a lot of fun, and it's a different thing, okay, from commercial shipping cargoes, but yeah, I learn also a lot. I mean, there's some similarities at some point with what people experience on different other size of ships. So when I want to escape, 1 day, 2 day off on the sea, this is really the best way to get more energy and get resourced and come back to the company.
Yeah, fantastic. People love hearing about that, especially if you're speaking to ship owners themselves and their families. They really like hearing that you kind of passion, like you mentioned earlier, passion is a key part of this. And yeah, if you're living and breathing it all the time, then it makes sense to.
Unfortunately, I'm not living close to the sea, but when I can escape and go in Brittany, I go there.
Yeah, you can go kayaking down the River Seine, is it? I think it down there. That'd be not quite the same. Cool. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much. And I guess, obviously, if anybody would like to reach out to you, if they have any questions about the business or yourself, what's the best way for them to do so?
Contact at amphitrite.fr.
Yeah, and don't forget to register at the Ocean Bulletin and test it out. That's ocean-bulletin.com.
Okay, brilliant. Well, I'll put the links in the show notes for the episode. But for now, yeah, thank you again for coming in and sharing a bit more about your story and the business. I'm really excited to see how you grow and you evolve. And yeah, thanks again all the listeners for tuning in. Take care.
Thank you for having us, Callum.
Thank you, Callum.